Zoning Boards of Appeals meeting. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Bob Valdez.
Here.
Glenn Musa. Here. James Mason.
Present.
Mike Gunner.
Here.
Jerry Hayes.
Here.
Barb McHenry. Here. Tim Waters.
Present. Public hearings. I need a motion to open those, Danielle, or just.
Yes, we do need a motion to open and then we'll have a motion to close for this.
Thanks. Make a motion to open the public hearing. Support. Moved and supported to open the public hearings. You call the roll.
Glenn. Here. Mike.
Yes.
Jerry.
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Barb. Yes. James.
Yes.
Bob.
Yes. Go please, Dana.
Yes, sorry. So before you guys tonight is a variance request from PDF Holdings. Pat Barber is here to represent the application as well, and he really will be the person that you can ask specific questions to. The variance is coming before you guys before a land division goes to the planning commission. He's wanting to divide the property over along Sugar Street that would be north of the pool. There's an existing brick building, an existing metal shop or building, and then some vacant property. He's wanting those two buildings to be on their own individual lots, and then the vacant property to be a third separate lot. In order to do this, he would be creating one lot that's substandard lot size, and then he would need a variance on setbacks for those side setbacks, which would be the shared lot line between the two buildings. That zone requires 20 foot, and he would have 10 foot for each of those properties. So he's requesting this variance. If you have specific questions, I would defer to him. And I would probably you should talk about that in the business portion. This is mostly just for the comment. We do, per the statutory requirements of this application, have to notify every property owner within 300 feet. We did that. I did receive 3 letters back. All 3 of them are checked that they do not object to this application, and they signed it with no additional comments. I also received a phone call from Pete Durbin today, who verbally indicated that he has no objection, but did not put it in writing. Other than that, I've received no public comment on this application. Would open it up to, public are here to speak about it.
Having no public appeals, we can ask Mr. Farber any questions you'd like about the land variance. Close the hearing.
Yeah, we should close the hearing and move through, and then any questions and discussion on the item will be under the new business.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to close the public hearing regarding the variance application.
Support. Moved and supported to close the public hearing. We call it roll.
James.
Yes.
Barb. Yes. Tim.
Yes.
Jerry.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Glenn. Yes. Bob.
Yes. Public hearing is closed. Now, if you have any questions. So you're looking at selling property C, correct? Property C, that goes across Gypsum, according to the map. Open property they have.
Correct, yeah, this is split between the buildings there, and that would make that a lot, that's all.
The big stuff, they're over here by H&H.
I don't think it really does, I think, if it does, it probably got lost years ago, so that, I'm actually kind of goes from there. I'm willing to basically move that to whoever has that. I wasn't aware that we actually own that piece of it.
So H&H may own that.
It says we do, and I probably pay taxes on it, but it's a good.
The railroad.
Yeah.
railway
There's
down
really
there.
not much that can be
No,
done.
no, it's a railroad right away.
That got sold past, that pie shaped in there, that got sold.
Are you saying you don't own this strip of land from Depot
It
Street?
says I do, and I probably pay taxes on it. I haven't really gone to the extent to look at it, but I do. That's a situation where the people across the street there that have the buildings and whatever,
Right.
it really probably belongs more for them than it would for me. We have no use for it.
But really the variance request is for A and B,
Correct,
right? So
yes, so
the
you
lot will be too
guys,
small and the setback.
Yeah.
Are we legally allowed to grant that?
so you guys are, you can only focus on the variance. You are not hearing the land division. The land division can only be considered by planning commission if this goes through. In your packet, I prepared a staff report for you guys. And there's a section that talks about, it's on page 6 of the packet. And it says that the zoning board can approve it based on, so after hearing evidence presented, you shall make written findings, which I'll do the findings if you choose. And then 1 through 5D, those are the criteria that you have to be able to answer in order to approve this variance. If you can't answer these, then you're not supposed to approve the variance.
Who is we that have to answer?
You, the council.
And we're supposed to
No.
make this decision tonight.
Correct. I have provided these to Pat in an email because Pat, as the applicant, has the burden of proof to tell you guys why or show you how he meets these criteria. So you can ask him and seek information. I can share facts. I can't make a recommendation. It's solely up to you guys. But Pat can provide any information that you guys feel would helpful to you to be able to answer these.
And why does it come to us first? This is my first. rodeo
So
with this. Why does it come to
our ordinance specifically identifies that the village council acts as the zoning board of appeals. It's not a separate board under our ordinance. So it's up to the village through an ordinance. If you guys, under our village, general law village act, you have the ability to be the board or to have somebody else. And I believe probably at one point they said council, because these are they're statutorily required to go through very specific processes and findings. So I would assume they probably just figured because of that, it made sense to have the village council do these meetings. Okay.
And Danielle, then I'm deferring to you just so I have an understanding. On page 4 of 25, where it states the reviewing agency's comments, this tells, if I understand it correctly, that you have no concerns. You've looked this over as well. The police department has no issues. They've looked this over. The water treatment has no concerns. The zoning administrator,
Which was really me because Stacy's. still
understand
working.
exactly, okay, and the building official, there are no concerns, okay?
Correct.
Okay, the other people that did not, agencies that did not respond.
So they were provided notice but did not respond. So anybody that's responded, I provided their exact comment.
Okay,
So though they've known about it, they just didn't say like no concerns or anything.
So Public Works is and water, okay,
I mean, really, like,
okay,
Public Works probably doesn't really affect them, the streets existing. Where they're really going to say something is if maybe there's not a street there that, I mean, and a lot of times with variances, that's just not the case.
gotcha.
But I still notified them just in case there was something that
Okay.
maybe I wasn't thinking of that they were,
Okay. Thank you.
yes. So if you guys decide to approve it, what we'll do is you'll make a motion to approve it. And then I'll read these one at a time, and then you're going to agree on an answer. And though that answer will go into the findings of fact, which become part of the official approval. And then that goes to Pat. If you as a board feel that these cannot be met, then you do make a motion that the findings are not met and that the variance is not approved, and then you still go through the findings saying why they're not met. So either way, you have to go through these.
When you say through these, you're talking on the page 6, each one of those?
Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through, and then it's got the A, B, C, and D.
Okay.
And if it's helpful, you guys can try to answer these before a motion too. Like if you feel like it would be helpful to say, okay, 1, and work together to see what your response is, we can always do it that way as well. Whatever, however you feel this is gonna be easiest.
I personally would like to hear from Pat and kind of get an idea of why he's requesting the split.
Sure.
To do that.
Yeah, I guess boils down to real simply is it's difficult to find a person who wants to buy both buildings, but I do have people interested in buying each one individually. So I would say for the one that's probably going to be more of a storage, the OB warehouse would be more of a storage situation for the person that's looking at that. The other one might work as a small automotive shop or something like that. The pole barn is very nice. It's got heat and all water and bathroom and all that in it. So that would make a nice little business over there as well. So that's really the driving force is that it's so easier to sell them individually than it would be to have someone buy both.
Thank you.
So you're feeling like if we separate these, you have, so you feel like. And so business would go in there. So,
Right.
What's it zoned currently?
It's zoned industrial.
So whatever technical business or whatever they were put in that steel building, obviously would have to comply with the zoning standards.
Of course.
Or they would have to, again, come back and
Sure.
try to rezone that property as well, and that's understandable. The whole thing's very peculiar, obviously, I mean, it's not, I would say it meets number 1 because it is peculiar to the land. It doesn't really affect anything else. We've talked to the 300 people or the people in the 300 foot, there's been no issue there. The interpretation of the ordinance number 2, obviously, a practical difficulty, how big you want to be in it. A practical difficulty would be not selling the properties together by having to split them. By splitting them, it would create a much better option for Mr. Farmer to weed sell them. Skipping to number 4, obviously that one's pretty much basic. Alleviates practical difficulties in the applicant's use of the land building structure. He kind of referred to what those buildings will become. The granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes of this ordinance. That's all very, pretty much basic. We didn't hear anything from the fire department, nothing really from the village. Existing or, 300-foot property owners. So there's not really an issue there. My only issue sadly is number 3, that the special conditions, circumstances did not result from actions of the applicant. And you're the one that technically built the steel pole building, correct? So that's the only sticking point. As much as I want to move forward, and I totally do, because I think it makes sense. Is that the issue, because Pat did build that steel pole building that close or within the setback of the existing brick structure.
Right, so because it's a combined lot now, he did meet the required setbacks at that time. So unless he had the intent at that time to split the lot, I would say he did, it's not
It's not an issue
right.
because the land use is technically changing. So now he is facing the practical difficulty of having those lots quote share 10-foot easement instead of 20-foot or distance.
Not only that, but if the steel pole barn does sell and somebody does want to open up an automotive shop, then we have to look at that zoning, and that becomes spot zoning, which,
Then I don't know if automotive would be what it is. You could put a number of things. in there.
right, I mean, anything that's not industrial would have to come before the planning commission.
And I have had an inquiry from another manufacturer here in town
Okay.
for that building, so.
Yeah, and you are right, Jerry, it is completely surrounded by industrial, so it does limit any possibility of a rezone. Because
Right.
like he said, you can't spot zone, so it would have to be adjacent to, so the use is going to have to remain industrial. But right now, you guys are just hearing the variance. Are you good with the brick building being on a substandard lot size? So it's only 17,000 square feet, and our ordinance says that it should be, I gotta look here again, I apologize. 20,000 square feet. It's, the width is supposed to be 100 feet, and he's gonna have it 90, and then that 10-foot setback for both buildings should be 20. And it's 20 combined, but not individually.
And just point of reference to, I personally didn't build the building, my father did, and that was a previous owner.
I guess another question that would be for the 90-foot, that's parcel A, correct?
Correct.
And does that include the quote easement or whatever, the drive back to the little league? Or does it go to the other side, or does that stop?
That's, no, it stops before that Little League road.
Okay, so the
through
maps,
Farber.
the map's just kind of drawn as.
Well, it's, I think, a GIS, so it's not completely, it doesn't always perfectly align when you pull the GIS mapping.
And that would be another justification on my end, is if you have quote that easement that was provided by Mr. Farber or his father in the past, that still gives another 15 or 20 feet of separation. So you would have the lot plus that sort of dedicated easement that probably would never go away because it's the literal access to the ball field itself.
Like, is the driveway a right of way, or did that get deeded over to the village?
That's kind of my question.
Because if it's just a right of way, then that driveway that used to belong to Blissfield manufacturing would make up your extra 1,000 feet, or 3,000 feet.
Right.
I do not know. Do you know about that? Yeah,
Because the way it is drawn, that drive is
On the-
technically included in that parcel. So that would be my question.
I would say based off of the GIS mapping and it being included that it's probably an easement through there. I would say it's probably some kind of perpetual easement,
Well,
but
that's what
you're
we-
saying forever we can use
Yeah,
that
and that's what we
easement.
did on the other side, he did in the pool, same thing.
Because there used to be another warehouse there, and we tore it down to make the access to the ballpark.
So you may make up your 10 foot there. even make up your substandard, you still have the variance for the in-between. And are we good with that?
That's mostly for firefighting ingredients, right? To be able to access it between the buildings.
I would have no problem with that. There's no windows on the steel portion side, the brick building. I mean, it's a brick building. It is what it is. If we can justify those 5 requirements, is strict or as lenient as we want to be on them, I think we can justify an approval of that division based on what we've discussed. That's my,
Do you want to make a motion?
yeah, sure. I'll move that. We move forward with the approval of the variance request from Mr. Farber as presented for the land division.
I'll support that.
And moved and supported to grant the variance. That's before us. Any other comments or questions?
I have one. Under number 3, variances, limitations of the rights and powers, letter C, practical difficulties based on economic considerations are not grounds for a variance. Is that, am I reading that right?
Yes.
Very easy.
What page are
It's
you
number, it's be page 7 right at the top. Number 3.
Yeah, it really is the crux of the argument.
And what's your point on that then, Jerry? So I'm on the same page.
Well, I guess my point is because he's asking us to separate these pieces of land because it's easier to sell
Understand.
individually, that would be an economic consideration,
I see what you're saying.
I think,
I'm just curious where you're.
at least according, if I'm reading that correctly.
Right, so you can't base your decision off of those criteria. So what Jerry's saying is that if the argument is that financially it makes sense to split those so he can sell them, that can't be the basis for your argument, for your findings.
Understand.
Well, at this point, we still have to go through and answer these.
Yeah,
Right.
so that's what I would recommend, because you have a
Otherwise we'll
motion
continue
to
on.
approve it. I would go through the findings before you do a roll call, because then you'll know as a council, are you comfortable with those findings?
Yeah.
So number 1. So the special conditions or circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved and which do not apply to or affect other lands, structures, or buildings in the zoning district. What do we want the finding there to be?
Yes, my question is what's peculiar about it?
Yeah, that's what we need to answer. What's
I would say yes. It's peculiar in nature because the current owner did not erect the buildings. And the current owner, correct me if I'm right or wrong, may or may not be using them for their originally intended purposes. So I think it meets number 1. Yeah.
Well, that, and there's no other building on that property that's having the same conflict, the same separation between the 2 buildings. And that's the peculiarity of it in itself. There's no other building on that site, on the property, which would be causing, you know, the setback separation, the setback issue. So that in itself, by definition, makes it peculiar to that site. If that makes sense.
I would agree with that.
Okay, so about, yes, it's peculiar in nature because the current owner did not erect the current buildings and may not be using them for their intended purposes. Additionally, there are no other buildings on the site causing setback issues. That work?
I think so.
Okay. So number 2, that the literal interpretation of the provisions of this ordinance applied under these special circumstances have created or will create practical difficulties in the applicant's use of the land, building, or structures.
Well, the use is gonna change because it would be technically 2 owners, so. I mean, wouldn't, if Mr. Farmer was gonna keep it and try to get a variance regardless, or he built another building that would be within that setback, that would be the disqualification for this, because it would be 2 different units, 2 different owners or 2 different uses. It would be a created practical difficulty because of, I guess, that setback requirement. If it were to stay in his hands, that would negate, or, that would negate number 2, but it's gonna be 2 different owners. Potentially, and that's the whole intent of what we're trying to do here, is to sell the properties individually. And leave it as one.
Is it too simple to answer no?
I mean, you can answer however you choose. I have seen boards answer just yes or no. Now, my only thing I would tell you, if you just answer no, and the likeliness of this is pretty low, if somebody were to appeal it and it goes to court and you just said yes or no, they're not gonna understand why. Again, the likeliness of that is probably pretty slim, but
So the line that jumps out to me in number 2 is the applicant's use of the land, building, or structures. Doesn't say future owners use of the land, building, or structures.
Well, it causes Mr. Farmer practical difficulty in selling the properties. He's had them listed, he hasn't sold them, but he's stating that he has 2 potential owners to split it. That would, in my eyes, be a practical difficulty.
Well, I don't think that's correct. If I think it's saying if we don't allow for it, or if we do allow for it, does it create? So it's not, there's no difficulties now, we allow for it. Does it create any additional difficulties? That's what I think. So again, not to simplify it, I just think no.
Because it will not create a practical difficulty.
That's correct.
we wanna go with no.
You could say no because it does not create a practical difficulty.
I'd prefer to go with no, that way we don't have to clarify
The practical
any
difficulties.
ill-advised statement tonight,
No.
so. Yeah. I don't,
Objections to that? Moving on to 3. Okay. That the special conditions and circumstances did not result from the actions of the applicant.
also no.
It's no. Okay. Moving on. That the variance is the minimum variance necessary to alleviate the practical difficulties in the applicant's use of the land, building, or structure.
Yes.
Just yes?
Yes. And all it's doing is requesting the setback distance. That's pretty simple.
Okay, that the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of this ordinance and will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to public welfare.
Yes.
It will not be.
Just yes, moving on. Okay. That the granting of the variance will not impair an adequate supply of light or air to adjacent properties.
Yes.
That the granting of the variance will not unreasonably increase the congestion of traffic in the public streets.
Yes.
Yes.
That's it. Traffic jam and.
No.
That the granting of the variance will not increase the danger of fire or endanger the public safety.
I'll defer to Mike and Jerry on this.
I don't see why it would.
Is that another guess?
Yes.
The granting of this variance will not unreasonably diminish or impair established property values within the surrounding area.
That's no, that's yes. I mean,
Yes, it will not.
yes, yes meaning no.
Okay, do I need to repeat all of those, or are we good for roll call?
Yeah, we're good for roll call.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Tim,
Yes.
Barb? Yes. Jerry,
No,
James,
No.
Mike,
Yes.
Gwen? No. Bob?
Yes.
Passed 4-3, I believe.
4-3.
Yes.
Variance granted. They're going on to public items, not,
Yeah, I don't, you technically are supposed to. I don't know if anybody here. But if you have comments for council, it's on the next meeting. And then you'll just motion to adjourn. We'll adjourn this one and then we'll open our council meeting.
all right. Motion to adjourn this public hearing.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn the zoning board of appeals meeting.
Support. Moved and supported to adjourn the zoning board's appeal meeting. You call the roll.
Barb? Yes. Mike,
Yes.
Gwen? Yes. Jerry,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Yes, that meeting's adjourned. Call the order, call to order in Blissfield Village Council meeting. Stand for the pledge and opening prayer by Pastor John. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Thank you, Lord, for giving us this beautiful night, and thank you for giving us peace and grace so that we can gather here at this time. Help us remember that our daily lives are always by the grace of the Lord, and guide us to have a life of gratitude to the Lord. Today, we are here to discuss the business of our community together. Please protect and guide our meetings so that the Lord may be in our thoughts, wisdom, and will, so that we can always carry out projects and events that provide fairness, convenience, and safety to the people of our community. In particular, may the Lord bless the village council members who serve this community, leading them to be healthy all the time and to enrich their homes and their businesses. Let everything we share today be in the interest and benefit of this community. Keep everyone satisfied, and may God's justice be with this community. Please protect our thoughts and hearts so that this meeting can end gracefully and peacefully. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Five minutes of October 24th, 2022.
I move to approve the minutes from October 24th, 2022 as presented. I'll support.
Moved and supported to approve the minutes of October 24th, 2022 as presented. Any comments, questions? If not, we call roll.
Mike,
Yes.
Barb? Yes. Gwen,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes. Move on to presentations and communications. Public hearing, Michigan DNR Spark grant submission.
I have a written public comment,
Oh,
but
I believe
I'll let the public speak first.
I'm supposed to read that one.
Oh,
I have
perfect.
it.
Okay, I will let you read it then.
You know, open the hearing.
Open the hearing.
We open the public hearing regarding the Michigan DNR Spark grant submission.
Let's support.
Moved and supported to open a public hearing for the Michigan DNR Spark grant submission. We call the roll.
James,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Barb, yes. Mike,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes, public hearing is open.
Sorry.
So I am reading this public comment on behalf of my mother, Emily Mullins, who's a Parks and Rec Advisory Board member who unfortunately is still at work today. I understand DDA is prepared to apply for the Spark grant. I'm not just here talking as a Parks and Rec person, but as someone with experience with grants and training on grant writing. I would like the council to consider the appropriateness of this request from DDA. This is from the grant website. Administered by the DNR, Michigan Spark grants will support projects that provide safe, accessible, public recreation facilities and spaces to improve people's health, introduce new recreation experiences, build on existing park infrastructure, and make it easier for people to enjoy both indoor and outdoor recreation. This grant opportunity is possible because of the Building Michigan Together plan signed in March 2022, which included a historic infusion of federal funding in our state and local parks. When I heard about this grant opportunity, I was super excited for many reasons. Number one, because it's specifically for public recreation and local parks. Number two, because the size of the grant is amazing. Minimum of $100,000, max of $1 million. Absolutely unheard of. Number three, the grant does not require a financial match because they recognize parks do not have access to additional funds. Number four, the grant can include paying for planning and engineering. Number five, there will be 3 rounds of funding, and the village can seek funding for 3 separate recreation areas in our community. We have the old Gail Giles pool site, which has been left vacant for 6 or 7 years. This grant talks about the renovation of rec facilities. It basically has Gail Giles written all over it. We have a new aquatic center that is sitting alone in a field with insufficient parking, no signs, no sidewalk connection to Farber Field next door, and a big open area just waiting to be developed. There's the playground equipment at Ellis Park and the accessible playground over on Veterans that are in need. Rotary developed a plan for walking trails that we cut down on in size to get a different grant, but we were rejected for that anyways. What I'm saying is here that there's a lot of need, lots of different projects. This funding is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to improve our parks. I was surprised and disappointed to hear that DDA is applying for this park funding. I'm sure $200,000 for that little one-block area would be amazing. It's a beautiful plan, but to me, this feels greedy. DDA has received other grants to improve this part of downtown. There are so many grants available for businesses and through the DDA Main Street program. Again, this grant is historic and a rare opportunity for parks who don't have access to those kinds of grants and don't have a revenue stream to provide matching funds like businesses do. To me, this also feels a bit shady. The downtown mini park is not a park. The mini park does not even fall under the control of the village's Parks and Recreation. It's DDA. And DDA's primary purpose is not for providing outdoor recreation as the grant requires. For DDA to apply for a grant where they do not meet the published guidance and therefore would be unlikely to win, well, that wastes one of the 3 chances Blissfield Parks have for this outdoor recreation grant. I ask the council to say no to this request from the DDA. Council should instruct Parks and Recreation to come back to the next meeting with a plan and proposal for the old pool site to be submitted by December 19th, when round 1 applications are due. The grant requires council approve a resolution, but does not require a public hearing. I know there's conflicts of interest with many of the council also being part of DDA. If you truly feel that DDA provides public recreation, then allow DDA to apply for the 3rd round of funding, not the 1st. Please take a look at the grant package. It is an amazing opportunity specifically for outdoor recreation and public parks. Thank you.
Danielle, did you want to address anything on that?
No, I'll talk to you guys about it under the new business, if that's okay with council.
All right, then we'll have a motion. If there's no other public comments, then I'll take a motion to.
Oh,
Go ahead, if you want.
I'm sorry, I came in late. Is this the public where we ask, if we have anything to
No,
say?
it's not.
Not yet.
Not yet. So I'll take a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the public hearing on the Michigan DNR Spark Grant submission.
Support.
Moved and supported to adjourn the public hearing on the DNR Spark grant submission. You can call the roll.
Gwen,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Barb, yes, James,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes. Public hearing is closed. Move on to the agenda of November 14th, 2022.
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve the agenda as presented. Call the roll.
Barb, yes, Tim,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes. The agenda is approved. Moving on to public comment items on the agenda. Hearing no items, we're moving on. Move on to unfinished business. Approve Matt Kester fee reversal request.
Can you enlighten us? I think the last time we discussed this situation / issue, you were not able to be in attendance because you were taking care of some family good stuff. Can you share with us your thoughts on this at this time?
So I presented the same information that I had at the last time. I do apologize that I was not able to attend the last council meeting. My kiddo had his very first orchestra concert. Following that meeting, was a little bit confused. I had some council members telling me they felt that it failed and was not moving forward. I had some feel that it was. I did watch the council recording. I had tried to jump on, but was about 4 minutes too late. But I watched the recording. After watching it, I would have left that meeting with the understanding that it was coming back to council. I think that it was clear after the vote that there was indication that it would be looked into again and brought back when I was here, so I did put it on the agenda. I was also under the impression Matt would be reaching out to me. He did do so last week, on Friday, asking that this be brought to council, so I am bringing it back. I don't have any additional or new information for you at this time. If you guys have questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer them. And Matt is obviously here as well.
I had the opportunity, Matt had invited me over to his place, so I had the opportunity to attend. And after I looked at the facility, you know, obviously we had discussion and I said that I'd like to, I wasn't making any promises certainly, but that one of the things that was brought up at council when we had this discussion was about not past practice, but will it set a precedence? The situation and how it's wanting to be addressed. Can you address that part of it, Danielle? If this has the potential, the opportunity, whatever word you want to use, to set a precedence, if you will.
I think that anything that you guys do sets or has the potential to set a precedence. So that it's hard, yes, if you waive a fee for one, then you do open the door for others. You guys have waived fees in the past already. I think that they can be there, you know, is there a circumstance to justify the reversal or waiving of a fee? And I think that's what you guys have to decide, because then you can clarify or be clear on the precedents not being set because of X circumstance. I hope that makes sense.
Well, that was a little clearer than what, but yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. That anything can essentially be considered as past practice.
Right.
Or setting a precedent.
I think you set a precedent when you don't identify the circumstance or the specific unique situation that would have made you vote for a reversal or waiver. If you're just saying, yeah, we're nice people, we're gonna do it, that's setting a precedent. If you can, as a council, if you feel there's a unique or different circumstance that makes this different than just the average person saying, well, I want you to reverse my fees, then I think that's where you're kind of walking outside of that.
And that's where that would need to be stated specifically to show the uniqueness.
I mean, that's up to you guys.
I understand,
Yeah.
but that's the suggestion that you're making.
Yes.
Okay. That's good too.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
But really, are we correcting a billing issue? Because we were charged for 4, we should have been being charged for 3.
Well, Matt, you have a bathroom in that facility that's not in use, so the minimum was taken off. I don't know at what point that bathroom was no longer in use. I can only account for the date I did the inspection. Before that, I have no idea. I mean, all I have is your word, and I'm not saying your word's not good, I can't say that that was built incorrectly. If there was no bathroom and no water connection, yes.
Well, there's no water connection.
Well, there is. You have a bathroom there that's just not in use.
No, there's no water to it.
But when was that water disconnected?
When they took that meter out, because that line is hooked to where that meter's at, and it's open on both ends.
Okay. But I don't know that.
One has seen that, because remember, it's only like bouncing in the air.
I did see that. You did show me that, yes.
But when, like, we don't have it documented that that's the date it was disconnected. That's what I'm saying. There's nothing, how do we know what day that was?
They didn't record that when they came and picked up those meters.
There's nothing saying that that was disconnected from water.
How many minimums do you have right now, Matt?
There's one for 106. There's one for leases, there's one for deputies.
Wait, you keep using the numbers and it's hard to zero in on the map and say, okay, that's the one, because it just is. So 106, give me the name of the building, what's in there right now?
Nothing's empty.
Okay. And There is 1 meter to that building.
There's a meter to that building. That meter took to the apartment.
Okay, where's the second meter?
Second meter is the restaurant, and it has two. One meter comes in and it splits. The apartment is separate.
It's 1
It has
meter.
one line that comes in, and then there's 2 meters inside. Yeah, so if you guys ever want to shut it off, I have to go to the basement and shut it off with the apartment. That's how that gets shut off. Every time she gets behind.
So basically, there's 3 meters. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's 1 meter outside, goes inside the building and
So
splits
there's
into
one
2.
line that comes in, and then it splits, and there's 2 meters inside. But to shut it off, I have to go down and shut off the apartment separate.
So 106 South Lane Street, which is currently vacant, and 106.5 South Lane Street, which is the upstairs apartment, has one meter for those 2 properties. Matt was being charged a minimum for the apartment, a minimum for 106, the vacant building, vacant business, and usage for that. He has since disconnected 106 South Lane, the business bathroom, and closed that off. It's vacant, not in use, so there's no minimum there. The apartment pays minimum and usage. Memories on Lane Street has never been billed a minimum by the village and has no facilities. 103 West Adrian Street is the antique mall that has a bathroom downstairs that's disconnected. This is the property that Matt's referring to, that their meter was pulled and that the lines come out and dead end. 107 West Adrian, which is Lisa's brunch box, has a meter to her business. That meter also feeds the usage at 109 West Adrian Street, which is Decades. So Decades does not have its own meter. However, Decades and Lisa are both billed a minimum and then billed usage to Lisa's. And then 107.5 West Adrian Street, which is the apartment above Lisa's, has its own meter. So they pay their own minimum and their own usage. And that meter and Lisa's meter are in his basement next to each other.
What would it cost? What is the cost of putting in a new meter? Just asking. I'm not saying I want everybody to do this, but I'm just asking, what is the cost? Why don't we just do that? Does anybody have any idea?
A lot more than 24, 28, that's for sure.
Uh,
You're gonna tear up the back, you're gonna
I'm
tear up
just
that
asking.
back parking lot. It should have been done when the parking lot was put in by the DDA or the village or whatever back in the past. Again, this happens regularly in these 0 lot line downtown buildings. For the building I had shared a meter inside with the neighboring business because whatever happened in the past, the village or the property owner didn't provide its own individual line into the building. So again, this is what I've been saying for the past. We need to get out of what happens beyond the meter and let people do what they're gonna do with their own business, follow the regulations of the plumbing code, the international plumbing code, and get our business out of everybody else's business. We only maintain up to the meter. So why should we care what happens after the meter? And that's what I was talking about with John at Michigan Rural Water. Anything in the future, you build an 8-unit apartment complex, fine. You get your own unit, you get your own meter. But for us to continue going back to where we could potentially be with property owners, fighting property owners say, you're not coming in my building, it's none of your business. So again, it should have been rectified long ago. We made a promise, whether it wasn't just us, but it was our future, our previous administrators told Matt and the attorneys as well that they were gonna figure it out, they were gonna work with it and not to pay this bill. That's all there is to it. We're gonna cost more in litigation down the line or digging up parking lots and installing new meters than just settling this and moving forward.
Well, I agree that we need to settle it. I wasn't talking litigation at all.
Well, I am talking litigation because I'm sure that's probably what it would come to, because the previous administrators and attorney told him not to pay the bill. And he has that rating.
There's nothing states that, there's no documentation that's dated proof that.
sure if somebody were subpoenaed, that it would probably come.
Do you have any copies of that, Ken?
The attorney has what, provided to you.
I had previously provided to you guys a,
That's a letter back in February.
I'm trying to find it in my file, it's a little bit large here, sorry. But his attorney, the memorandum of understanding that was signed by Jeff, Catherine Moore and Matt Hester. And this was a conversation in October of 2020.
Yeah, it's come to my understanding, to my attention, that there's a restroom upstairs in 105 West Adrian Street.
That
Which
one's
would-
been disconnected.
It's been disconnected too? You don't need any restrooms in all those 8 buildings?
We can walk over to the Decades one. That's what we used to do all the time.
When was that one disconnected?
That's been disconnected for a while.
That's the
And I
one
don't
for,
even know where key is for that one, because we have that one padlocked.
that's, that
Otherwise,
building,
the general
for
public was trying to use it.
those of you who don't know, it's you go past the sales counter in Matt's store and go into the next building. It used to be a separate building and you bought that separate.
Right.
It wasn't included in any other purchases, but if
There's
you go
also,
upstairs, it's at the top of the stairs.
there's also another one in 109 upstairs. All the way in the front of the building, and that one hasn't been, I've never seen that one used. And I've owned that building for 20 years.
So you've never seen it used, but it's not hooked up?
It's not hooked up either. That's when they used to have apartments upstairs.
I think what we need to do for Matt is figure out how many units. And I know that word unit is vague. But to me, a business has a restroom, it's a unit. So definitely the apartments are units.
Right.
Decades is a unit. You can pick up Decades and put it over there in another block and still use it as a business because it has a restroom,
Okay,
okay? So that makes Lisa's a unit. And that makes 106 and a half Main Street a unit. Well, that's the apartment. Okay.
There's two apartments.
I said apartments to begin with.
you're right, Barb, there's 4 there, 4 units is what you're coming up with, but we were being charged for 5 bills. To correct this, we were going back and trying to reimburse Lisa's for the 1 bill, because it was wrote up as Blissfield Antiques being charged through her meter. That is the 103 restroom that hasn't been used in 20 years.
That's the one you were sharing with me.
Yes,
That was downstairs behind the cashier
yes.
register.
I thought that was the one the village people used before.
No, Decades has always been the one open to the public.
What was the argument? So Decades is the one that the village residents used when they were downtown?
Yes,
So if we were to reverse this charge going forward, we're good.
yes,
Got it all figured out.
yes.
And Decades is still good with paying a minimum charge,
Yes,
even though they don't have a meter in their building.
correct.
Well, that's between.
And Decades does pay it.
They're going to pay it. I've been paying it.
You need to just bill the people who rent from you. That makes it more clear
Yeah,
if they're paying their own. My people pay their own.
yeah, there's a percentage though of the business that comes back to me anyhow, so.
Okay, let me go back to the meter that splits when it gets inside.
Yep.
It comes into the building and then splits.
Mhm.
And so that's 2 meters, so it's 2 separate bills,
Correct.
but it's billing for 3 minimums.
Correct.
So if it's in a building and you have 2, can you put a 3rd one there? You're not digging underground. You see what I'm saying? It would come into the restaurant and it would have 1 for the restaurant, 1 for the apartment, and 1 for decades.
Right.
And they would each be billed separate and each one of your tenants would have a bill. And then it's not so muddy.
I think we've had plenty of discussion on this. If somebody would like to either make a motion or not.
I don't know when everything was disconnected. You know, that's a big issue. Did you disconnect it a long time ago, meaning 5 or 6 years, or a long time ago, meaning 20 years?
103 is 20 years.
But you see where we're coming from?
Right,
We
yes.
don't know when you disconnected that. I mean, I've been in my building for 21 years, but I don't know when you disconnected.
Right, you could go over and look at the line, though, and the line is, well, it's all galvanized stuff.
Danielle, how does last meeting's decision impact this?
So it's coming back to you guys as it's a new meeting, new request. I mean, it is the same, but at this point, you guys can make it a different motion.
Well, the last meeting was voted down on the premise that we didn't have input from the village administrator. So is that what we're asking? That's exactly what you wanted, right? Was because you didn't have a recommendation from the village administrator, you weren't willing to move forward. So what is your recommendation?
I'm not making a recommendation.
Well, then there you go.
And I'll tell you guys, my job is to present facts and information to you guys, and I make recommendations on motions pretty routinely because that's day-to-day operations of the village. When I bring things to you that are political in nature or outside of my scope, that falls to you as the village council. This is not an administrator decision. This is a village council decision.
How does this fall with outside your scope, Daniel? I don't quite understand that.
You, as the council, you are the policy makers. You're the ones that say, this is the ordinance that we're going to have, this is the rule we're going to have, and then it's my job to enforce that rule. So my understanding is at this point, I presented the facts and information, my understanding of the rules. It's your job to, as council, to say, no, this is what we're gonna do or whatever. So I mean, it's not going to be very often that I don't provide a recommendation to you, but this is one of those instances.
I'm gonna bullet point this real quick and just correct me if I'm wrong. This is a result of moving to the new billing style, right? They have to be enterprise funds, and this was picked up as a unit. Matt brought this to the attention of a former and has been battling for a good 2 years now, so we have no reason not to take him for his word that he raised the alarm right away. Longtime business owner, paying multiple service fees, hookups. I think we're splitting hairs here, and then just to Mike's point, yeah, cost benefit of not approving this and going to a legal battle, not even worth it. So I'll make a motion to waive these late fees. Nope, we already did that. Hold on a second. Make a motion to reverse the prior billing in the amount of $2,428.32.
I'll support that.
Moved and supported. You have that motion, Lisa?
Sorry, a little complicated.
That's all right. You have it down though?
Yeah. But what is the circumstance? I was under the impression that in order for us not to,
Well, I'm under the belief that there was never service provided to that restroom, therefore there's never a need for a meter. There's no water going into that building for the past, fill in the blanks, how many years?
20 years, but we're already gonna last 2.5.
Yeah.
Because that's when the extra billing started.
Right.
so I'm just
Yeah.
clarifying, so
Yeah.
that, does that need to be
we can-
recommended in the motion or
we
not?
can-
That's completely up to you
Yeah,
guys.
I mean, we can enter that into public comment, like, no water has been provided for the last 20 years.
All right, you can call the roll.
Could you read it for us, Lisa, before we, please?
Thank you.
Move to reverse the prior billing in the amount of $2,428.32.
Move to reverse the billing.
The prior billing in the amount of $2,428.32.
Comment on that, can we put in more specific, the billing for the last 2.5 years or something, whatever? Just so it's a little more clear,
Sure.
Whatever.
make that amendment.
We can round out this motion any way we like.
Yeah.
I'm just, I'm.
No, no, I-
You're right, though, it does need some clarification.
Yeah, it's pretty
vague.
Move to reverse the prior billing from the last 2.5 years in the amount of $2,428.32.
Sure.
Can we add on there as stated by the agreement between former village administrator Matt Kester and his attorney?
Which former administrator, please?
Was that Joe? Or Jim?
Joe with that one.
Joe Fry.
And if you want to be specific, November 2020 through February of 2022.
You call the roll. You got all that down? I'm
Working
sorry.
on it.
I'm sorry.
Tim,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Barb,
No,
Gwen,
I'm just having difficulties because I want to go for this, but I just wish there was something in writing. I'm gonna have to say no, Matt.
Jerry,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes. That motion carried. Moving on to new business. Payroll.
Move to approve the payroll register for October 2022, in the amount of $103,522.04.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve the payroll registration for October 2022 in the amount of $103,522.05.
I just caught, sorry about, our sheet, electronic transaction says 130, so something got flipped, is it 103 or is it?
no, it's 1:30.
It's 130.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Does James need to restate his motion?
Are you good with just a friendly amendment to
I
that one? Are you good, Jerry?
I'm good.
Okay, you're good then.
Okay, you can call the roll.
Gwen,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Barb,
yes,
James,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes. Moving on to accounts payable.
accounts payable for the period of October 12th, 2022 to November 15th, 2022 in the amount of $454,768.39.
Support. Moved and supported to approve the accounts payable for the period of October 12th, 2022 to November 15th, 2022 in the amount of $454,768.39. Are there any questions on the bills? If not, you can call the roll.
James,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes. Those bills are approved. Moving on to 3, resolution, public funded health insurance contribution act, compliance 152 of 2011.
Every year annually about this time, we present this request to you guys. We are required to, we have 3 different options. We can exempt ourselves, which is what we've been doing historically from the health insurance. We can do an 80-20 split with the village and the employees, or we can do a hard cap option. We have at this time within our budget process budgeted to continue paying benefits for the employees. So I am requesting to exempt the village from this option so that I can file the appropriate paperwork again. But if you have questions, let me know.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution exempting the village from PA 152 of 2011.
Support. Moved and supported to approve resolution exempting the village from PA 152 of 2011. Any other comments or questions? Now you can call the roll.
Tim,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes. That motion carried. Action item 4, approve aquatic center pass, season pass, holiday discount.
I'll make a motion to approve the holiday season aquatic center discount as presented from December the 5th, 2022 through December the 22nd of 2022.
Support that.
Moved and supported to approve the holiday season aquatic center discount as presented from December 5th, 2022 through December 22 of 22.
I do have one quick question. You know, I made the motion, just for clarification, did Eric come talk with you about this? Or was this something that you did on your own?
No, Eric did come to me and asked me about doing a discount again. We did one last year. And then I did propose to him a difference doing the staggered, but he did come to me, yes.
Because he had mentioned it before. I was just curious if he had that.
Yes, he did.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Do we know what the impacts on our projected budget will be?
I do not. We reduced our projected revenues a little bit this year. Last year we pre-sold 4 season passes, so it was not a significant amount, but I do think that it potentially makes for a good Christmas present. If somebody wanted to gift it to another, but I could tell you better after this year.
After 2 years.
Yeah. I also, our hope was to get it a little bit further in advance this year. Last year, we were kind of scrambling and give people notice. So hopefully this year will be a better idea of what that looks like.
I think the tiered percentages too might help get people motivated to take advantage of it since we're offering it.
Yes, that's my hope as well.
You can call the roll.
Barb,
Yes.
James,
No.
Tim,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes. That motion carried. Action item 5, resolution for Michigan DNR Spark grant submission.
So the DDA Main Street Board has looked at this and they are recommending the submission of a DNR Spark grant. They would like to request $185,100. They have received a donation for the mini park previously that would be used as matching funds in the amount of $14,900. So the total project cost would be $200,000. They have already funded and paid for the design of this park. They did also bid it out last year and the bids came in, or maybe it was this year, sorry, beginning of this year. The bids came in higher than what they had allocated within their budget, so they decided to hold off on it and are wanting to proceed. I do want to talk a little bit about, there are 3 rounds. The village does have, we are intending to apply for the Parks and Recreation Gail Giles site in the 2nd round of funding. I wanted to support the DDA in their request. I also wanted to be able to have some time to get information gathered for the Gail Giles pool site. I don't have anything prepared to be able to submit that grant funding request by the December 19th deadline. So I thought if we had the DDA apply 1st round, we apply 2nd. If we don't get it 2nd, we apply 3rd as well. Was kind of the intent moving forward, but I will answer any questions that you guys have.
What are our chances of getting a 2nd or 3rd round grant? Do you know?
I have no idea.
it's
So
pretty much-
1st round funding is 15 million, 2nd and 3rd is 25 million. I do think that this will be a highly competitive grant because it is a really once in a probably lifetime opportunity that the DNR is going to have this much funding, especially for parks and recreation activities. But I don't know. Unfortunately, it's not something that, because it is new, we don't know how many people will submit. I have reviewed the application and even started going through a lot of it for the DDA. The DNR grants are typically pretty lengthy and labor intensive. That they've simplified this one, which leads me to believe that even more people will apply for it because of that. But again, I have no idea.
And what's the deadline for round 2?
They've not released
I
that
haven't
yet.
released it.
No.
And what would make you think, Danielle, the part that the mini grant qualifies? Because Emily alluded to that in her message. Can you clarify that for us?
Yeah, so it is a park within the DDA, but it is still a village owned and operated park. So it is still a recreational facility. The grant doesn't identify what entity within the village can apply for it. So just because it's the DDA doesn't exclude it from being a recreational facility and what they intend to be able to use that for. And I want to be very clear, fully agree with Emily that the Parks and Recreation needs to apply for this grant, and we do have a lot of needs, but it's my intent in bringing this forward, and I think the DDA's is kind of balancing all of our needs, and that's a priority project to them, but the Gail Giles is a priority to us, and we absolutely need to move forward with an application for that.
In your experience with the grants, I mean, is it feasible that we could qualify? I mean, if we got something 1st round, something 2nd round?
Yes, and that question was specifically asked, and they did say that you would still be considered. Every community or every applicant can submit up to 3 applications per grant round.
That doesn't mean if we get the 1st round, we're gonna get the 2nd.
No, I don't, I mean, there's never, when it comes to grant money, there's never a guarantee.
Can you refresh our memory, or one of the DDA board members refresh our memory on what this project entails for the downtown park?
It'd be great if one of the DDA people could tell us.
Are we getting restrooms, or is it just an upgrade to?
It didn't include the restroom portion. It was pretty much gutting the entire park. It was doing a lot with the underground infrastructure. I know that was, because of everything that's in there, the electric, the water, whatnot. And as well as the proposed seating areas. I can't remember anymore, it's been a while, the trees, landscaping, all that sort of thing, yeah, tables.
Stage.
The actual, I mean, if they're going for the full bang, I guess, I wasn't at the last meeting unfortunately, but I mean, if that's what they're applying for and they're saying it costs that much, we did try to scale it back. But as Danielle alluded to, when we put it out for bid previously and taking out different elements that, you know, whether it's stamped concrete or whether it's pavers or whatever to look at cost saving measures. So I'm not sure if the board want to go for the full scale
Yes,
design.
that was the intent.
That was the intent. So again, that entails, you know, the trees, the grading, the proper watering channels for the trees.
There was a.
It was a pretty entailed project, and it did do a lot above ground, but it did do a lot with the infrastructure as well. So again, it's what is the best bang for the buck? Absolutely. I actually did, you know, take into consideration Ms. Mullen's comments. It makes sense because we sat on that old pool for 6-7 years now, and we do need to do something with that. We owe that to, you know, not only the village, but just responsibility wise, we need to do that. And I guess the way Danielle explained it, it makes a little more sense to me. We've had that proposal and that design and that the bid package ready to go for that park. Absolutely, we would apply for rounds 2 and 3. You know, again, we don't know whether we're guaranteed if we get one, we don't get the next, or vice versa. But what it does boil down to, you know, when you think about it, people get mad all the time about, oh, okay, grants, it's tax money, whatever. But if we don't get it, somebody else is going to take it and they're going to utilize it. So why wouldn't we apply for it? Secondly, we continuously have all these different various boards and committees and whatnot that fall under the realm of the village, be it DDA, be it you know, Parks and Rec, be it service groups, whatever else. Everybody's continuously fighting for that money that, again, we continue banging on everybody's doors and wanting more. It makes sense for me to go with the grants. We did a Parks and Rec function in the DDA district where they brought in the what was it, the take or the Blissfield, sorry, I can't think of the name. So again, it's not that we're taking from one or abandoning the other. They all have to work in unison for the greater good. And I guess that's my justification for it. So again, it's not that we're not paying attention, or we're not, you know, not focusing on what the Parks and Rec board's needs are, absolutely. But again, it's how do we work together for the greater good and get the best outcome.
So this project's pretty much ready to go.
Absolutely.
Other than
Yes.
putting it out.
Other than finances.
And that was
right.
really the reason we talked about putting this project forward. And Laura and I talked about, because I told her, I'm like, I don't want to compete with you. We go for round 1 because this is ready. But I told her I'm going for 2. And if I don't get it, we're going for 3. So if you don't get, you're out, because Parks and Rec has got to get a chance at Young Giles.
Yes.
And she understands that, but they want their chance as well. And again, my thought process was that this is ready to go and that gives us some time. Because they're looking, again, I don't have a date, but they're saying in January 23, they'll announce or be ready to go on round 2. So then I'll have some hard numbers and information and work with the Parks and Recreation Board to make sure that what we're requesting in that grant is complete and we have all the information we need. The grant also has some ask about community support and different letters, so it would give us time to collect that too.
So you said earlier, the village can apply 3 times for each round?
Yes.
So for the second round, the DDA could apply and Parks and Rec could apply too.
But that's, we don't want to compete with each other. Because you're gonna have to submit priorities then.
So they would only give one project, a grant.
Per round. Well, we would only want to apply for one
You
project.
can submit, I attended the grant webinar that they had and I've read all their documents. You can submit 3 things total and you choose which one is going to be looked at first. It's not 3 items per round, it's 3 items total.
Tiered. First, second, third.
And I did sorry to interrupt your official meeting here, but I did ask this specific question. Because I knew DDA wanted to go first, that if we get funding in round one, does that knock our score down in round two? And if that wasn't answered in their
I seen you
FAQs yet.
ask it, but yeah, they didn't answer a lot of questions that were.
They said the
typed
answers
down.
are coming, and I'm like, where?
And that's kind of what your issue is, Emily, is that you're saying, you're not saying that the DDA is not worthy and the cause is not worthy, that's not it. You're just saying, look, from your definition, your impression, this is where the Parks and Rec would qualify, and this would be, in your world, priority within monies, et cetera.
Well, also just getting the grant, you know, they're going to look at your application and score it against a rubric that they already have outlined on their website. And it talks about outdoor recreation, rehabilitating public outdoor recreation spaces. So I think that I saw the picture of the park, it would downtown, it would be great, but if I was scoring a grant, I would not score that as as meeting the requirements stated that it's public outdoor recreation.
So let's pretend this, let's go ahead and say that this passes through the DDA. All right, you still would apply for the second round, correct? Parks and Rec would still apply for the second round, and we would still, go for it. What is your, I think I know, but what is your concern that they go first versus Parks and Rec going first?
That, because I haven't gotten an answer to my question that I submitted to the
Which
state.
is the one about if we get it the first time. So your concern is that if the DDA does get it the first round, that Parks and Rec will not qualify, will not get it for the
Our
second
score
round.
will be lower on the second
Because of
round.
that, and
Because
that's
we
what
were
your
already
concern is.
awarded some,
I
because
gotcha.
our entity, the village,
Okay,
was already awarded something in the first round.
and that's your, since you're not getting that answer, that's your point.
Right. And I understand that they have a plan that's ready to go because they have it all engineered and planned out. That's not a luxury that Parks has. We don't have anybody that's done planning and engineering for these projects that are on our wish list. But what's unique about this grant is that you can put all of those things into this grant. We can have all of that stuff paid for with this grant.
Which is what you had shared with me a little bit earlier, that even if we don't have all of the engineering requests done and completed, that's part of the cost and can be covered by the grant. That's what you're saying.
How would we ask for a specific amount though, if we don't even know what potential use would be?
Well, I don't know exactly, yeah, I'm just curious, I think Emily has some numbers around, would be my guess.
I don't know how much it would cost to fill in the pool, but I think you floated that idea to other people. I don't know if anybody officially put bids in on it.
So we did get a bid to do that a few years back. So I do have pricing, but I think what Mike is asking is what are we doing there? And this is something that I've talked about before and we kind of discussed briefly, Emily and I even. So we can go in there and for fairly, in the scheme of things, affordably fill the pool in and leave what's there and just fill all the voids and fill it in. And that's fine if we're going to plant grass and have an open space there. If we're going to construct something structural, such as a amphitheater, I have no idea, then we need to take that concrete out and prepare for that because we're going to have footers and things that we wouldn't normally need if we're just gonna have grass. So what that, again, timing, what are we putting there? And how much do we need to request for engineering and design for construction and construction management and what's going there?
And that's not ready yet.
Close, we're asking on the recent survey, what do we want to do with that property, so there's.
Yeah, we
I mean, we're
did
not even near-
specifically include that question in the survey for the master plan so that we could get some guidance to provide to Parks and Rec. The other thought process was that when they seek that community engagement portion, of the grant application that we could include that we have just conducted this community survey, which indicated that our residents wanted whatever at this location. I agree with Emily, if DDA gets this, I don't know if we get it again, but we absolutely try.
And the least we ask for is to say whatever it would cost to just fill it, level it and walk away. I mean, we already know that. So
We'd be
potentially,
cursing that ground for the rest of eternity. There's not a council that's gonna come back and say, well, 10 years ago, we filled it in. Now, can we get money to take all that crap out so we can do something productive with the site? Like filling it in wouldn't even be on my options list. With this up to $1 million of grant funding, minimum $100,000. I mean,
but how do we apply in this amount of time? It's due in what, less than a month?
Due December 19th.
How do we say, this is what our plan is, this is what we're asking for, and give them things to meet that rubric when we're totally out of the loop on what we even want to do with it, let alone how much we have to spend to do something with it.
I don't know how we come to estimates on engineering costs or
Well, I can do
any of
that. Yeah, I can get costs. I just need to know what the plan is.
Right, and in the grant, they talk about how they do look at public input, but it's public survey is not a requirement of the grant. So that DDA or that this master plan is being worked on is great. They gave examples during the meeting that you could do a Google survey to find public interest. That if, like, they understand that parks don't have access to resources. So they said, you can hand draw a map of what you think you might want there. You don't have to have everything beautiful and fully prepared to put this grant application forward.
Can we give them options, like,
I think a public survey where you gave them a bunch of 5 or 6 options and then left a spot for them to say, oh, well, what about this? And the survey, like I said, there are 3 opportunities for us to search for this grant. So we can ask about this site,
That's
other
not what I
sites.
meant. Can we give, on the application, can you put, we want to do this, this, or this? We're just trying to figure out what the community would use?
No,
You have to work this.
you have to be more specific.
You have to request a specific amount of money for a specific project. And you can identify, so it'll say project Z, and the total cost is $500,000, and of that, X amount is going to engineering, X amount to design, X amount to construction, X amount to programs. And you break that out totaling the 500,000 or whatever. I'm just throwing out random numbers, but it does have to be a specific project. We can submit more than one, but then we list the priority. So we can submit up to 3, and then we would identify application A as priority 1 and so forth.
So you believe if we pass on the rounds 1 and 2, that the 3rd round would increase our chances of getting the grant?
No, I would never pass on rounds 1 and 2.
So
No, I didn't say
I
that.
thought that's what the letter said.
No, she was saying to have DDA wait to round 3, to have Parks and Rec apply round 1 and 2, and then DDA could apply round 3.
I mean, if you want to think in that logic, we know what tennis courts would cost to rebuild, to refinish. We have quote bids on what it would cost to do the walking trails. I mean, that would be something that we would more credibly apply for at this time because we have that background. We have more knowledge to provide that rubric to say, let's seek that funding. And then maybe we come up with other funding because we're not having to pay for those other projects to close the whole pool. You know what I'm saying? Again, I get that people scoff about it, but again, if that's free money out there, why would we not apply for it and sell the best possible project to get?
Right, one that meets the grant requirements. That would be my suggestion.
We'll have 3 chances to apply for it, so.
We're
We're just not there. We're not ready for the pool site. I mean, we're not there. The only thing we could ask for is however much it costs to fill it because we have no other plan further than that.
How close are we to the trail project?
I'm still waiting, we have a grant application with the DNR and currently that they've not released the awards yet. And that is for the scaled back version, and it's been a little bit, I think that was the end of last year, we applied for that. They submitted preliminary numbers, we responded to that, they're doing a review again, and I don't know when that review is final. I would think it would be soon, like by the end of the calendar year maybe, but I don't know that.
Mike, is there a maintenance plan for this downtown park? Is DDA planning on maintaining it, or is the village?
I think it's a combination, so the village does already do some maintenance, and then I know that the DDA had the intent of having some volunteers to help in that area as well.
And then we do budget, the DDA does budget for DPW, and more recently with Danielle, of trying to keep an accurate cost on what the maintenance costs are being charged to, again, empty the garbage and maintain the downtown and do that sort of stuff, so it's a little bit more accurate, a little bit more responsible in budget wise, so I would say yes, to an extent.
Well, it was
We
something
never
we
know what-
brought up with the walking trail. And anything we decide to put in at the old full site, will have some sort of maintenance cost. So filling it in is not the worst idea. With that, I move to approve the resolution authorizing the submission of the DNR Spark Grant application for the mini park project in the amount of $185,100.
I'll support. Moved and supported to approve the resolution authorizing the submission of the DNR Spark Grant application for the mini park project in the amount of $185,100.
The last thing, I guess I would say, not to drag this out, but yes, absolutely, let's continue again seeking out the projects that we want to, because if there's rounds 2 and 3, I mean, absolutely, that's free money.
Yeah.
But this is the greater project that we have ready to go. I think that would meet the qualifications, meet the requirements of what the state's looking for. And, you know,
Based upon what I saw during Yuletide,
There were a lot of people down there.
a lot, we could use it. We could use it. And I fully agree with everything Emily said, but I just don't think, I think our chances are much higher right now with this project.
All right, that's it. You call the roll?
Barb,
Yes,
Jerry,
Yes,
Gwen,
Yes.
Mike,
yes,
Tim,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes, that motion carried. Action item 6, approve the wastewater treatment plant purchase of the Alma actuator or whatever gearbox.
Move to approve the purchase of the quote from JGM Valve Corp. Actuator and gearbox for the amount of $5,897.
support.
I have a motion and support. Can you call the roll on that motion as presented?
I have a quick question, just for the record, this was a budgeted item, correct?
Correct, yes. The quote is under the budgeted amount.
We're saving money, $603.
I don't,
You can call the roll.
James,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes,
Tim,
Yes.
Jerry,
yes,
Mike,
yeah.
Gwen,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes, that motion carried. On action item 7, resolution adopting lien monthly validation policy revisions.
Council move to approve the resolution approving and adopting the Blissfield Police Department monthly lien validation as revised October 2022 as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve the resolution approving and adopting the Blissfield Police Department monthly lien validation as revised October 2022. You call the roll?
Gwen,
Yes.
Jerry,
yes,
Barb,
yes,
Mike,
Yes,
Jean,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes, that motion carried. Action item 8, resolution DDA Main Street Budget Amendment number 2.
I move to approve the budget amendment as presented.
second,
Moved and seconded to approve the budget amendment as presented. You can call the roll.
Tim,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes,
Jerry,
Yes,
Bob,
Yes, that motion carried. Action item 9, approve appointment of Tyler Rayburn to the non-regular part-time officer.
move to hire Mr. Tyler Rayburn as a non-regular part-time police officer to work special events or other details as needed when he is available to do so at the current rate for police officers of $27.96 an hour.
Support. I have a motion and a support. Can you call the roll on that motion as presented?
Mike,
Yes.
Barb,
yes,
Jerry,
Yes,
Tim,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes, that motion carried. On to the reports. Administrative report.
Good news about your personnel policy.
Yes, it is to the attorneys. So we are getting closer.
So it's been a big project,
Yes.
big project that we all need to be done. Good.
You excited for ordinances?
Yeah.
that's the next one.
I already started them.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
overachiever.
I've got 3 of them ready for you.
Well,
It's at those special HR attorneys who are saying, correct?
Correct, yes. Yeah, our attorneys have already reviewed it. But yeah, it's the HR.
Good. Oh, yes, did you notice, James, it says began, past tense, not beginning, but she began.
See the police department report. Moving on to the treasurer. We have the library board meeting documents. Moving on to council discussion.
I would just like to say hats off to Lori Nichols, to Danielle and Lisa and all the volunteers who helped out with Yuletide. I was down there Saturday afternoon till late in the evening, probably a little too late. And most of the day yesterday and
Saturday morning, Jerry?
no, I was just down there too late.
Oh, okay.
That time's like 9:30.
Oh.
It was a great
Whoa,
time,
okay.
a great event, lots of people out. Bingo yesterday was a blast. It takes a lot of volunteers to make that happen, and thank you to each and every one of them. And of course, our crew here at the village office, you guys do a fantastic job.
I'd like to make a comment regarding the elections. And Mike, officially, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Tim, officially, congratulations.
Thank you.
And officially, James, congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'd like to say to Bob, I think you've done a hell of a job as a president. I know not everybody believes that you can speak intelligently, but we all know that you can. That's a backwards compliment. Let me try it again, Zoom.
That's all right.
Or whatever, YouTube. Bob does know what he's doing. He's been a hell of a president, and there's a lot of things behind the scenes you folks don't see. And I just want you to know that he has been, in my opinion, a lot of good things have happened within this board. And a lot of things have happened in the last 2 years. It's been very productive. And I know not everybody always hears that, but they have been. And Bob, you're just kind of a quiet kind of a guy, but you do lead in your own way. And I think your way has been very appreciative. And Barb, you've been on the board a long time as well. And for those of you that think that they're my favorite, everybody here gets along, whether you agree or not. I'm looking at you, camera. Yes, I am. All right. I mean that seriously. You have done a well of a job. You've been on here. You're a businesswoman. Pat, Brad's been here a number of years. Your experience and your history of the village
Let's go.
has been very good as well. So thank you, Barb, for your time on the board. And Bob. And Eric May is in attendance, so Eric. Oh, gosh, Eric Rogers. Wrong Eric. So sorry, he's part of the rec. You are our Eric. So Eric, welcome on board. We appreciate you coming on board.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving on to public comment, items on the agenda, not on the agenda.
I got you.
I have something for that.
Go ahead, go up to the,
Okay.
state your name and your address.
Hello, my name is Carolyn Flores and I live at 438 South Street in Blissfield Heights. Back on September 1st, which is when I received it to my email, I got a bill for water and sewage that was for $1,118.13. Sorry, I get really nervous, so
It's
So-
intimidating, we've all done it, so.
So, when I had received a phone call, before I received the bill, which I was appreciative of, just stating like, hey, you have a really big bill. We just kind of wanted to give you a heads up before you received it, and we're like, well, what's going on? In that conversation, I was asked if I filled up a pool, which I do not have a pool. I do not have a pond. I mean, I live in a subdivision, so, and then I was told that I could come down here and fill out a waiver for up to $650, to go towards my water bill. Still, that's almost $600 more. Well, not $600 more, about $400 more than what my typical water bill would be. And it's not something that you do down here. It's actually a community action agency thing, and I'm not a low income family, so I don't qualify for any of that. And really, I guess the issue is that where did this water usage go if it's not in my yard, it's not in my home? I had a plumber come out and check all of my toilets and such, so there's no like leaky toilet. We actually had one when we first moved in. We got it fixed about a month after we moved in. We unfortunately got COVID the day that we were moving. Blessed family members with it as well. And then his availability, it was about a month after. No real adjustment though happened to our bill even after not having a leaky toilet. So there was that notion or that mention there. Another thing that I would like to mention is that I've been told that my meter does not get read because I have a Rottweiler, which totally understand. He would scare the bejesus out of me if that was not my dog. But we have a 6-foot privacy fence, so like you can't tell if our dog is or is not in there. So I've been told that they do not read my meter, and I would have to agree that they don't, because if you look at all of my bills, they all end in 00. There's no way that every single time my meter gets read, it ends in 00. Like, no way possible. So they came out, the village did, to check my interior meter, also to check what type of sump pump I have. I have just like a normal sump pump. And my internal meter, they stated, read higher than what my outdoor meter read, but that they weren't going to charge me the difference of that. And then they said that the new meters read more water than what you use, and they don't recommend for me to get it replaced. Whether there's even an issue with my meter, I have no idea. But they, at that time, moved my meter to the side of my house, which, great idea. Why it didn't happen, you know, when they read my meter the first time in February, since we've lived there, because we moved in January 19th, beyond me. But so that's been moved, but also on top of that, since it's been moved, my meter readings are still ending in 00. So that would still lead me to believe that the meter is not being read. There's just no way that you can, from January until November, have meter readings that all end in 00. It's just not, anyone who knows numbers knows that that's just not a thing. So there's that. Also, that once that large bill happened, it all just went back to normal. So like, it was just one time, 1 month. It wasn't like it spread out over like 2 months, you know, half of, you get what I'm saying? It was literally just one singular month,
What was that amount again?
$1,183.13.
And what are your typical monthly water bills that you-
Roughly like 160. I've had one up to 180, but those are my typical water bills is around there. I mean, we have 6 people in our home. So I mean, yeah, we use a decent amount of water. I'm told that my average amount is about 4,500 gallons. This 1 month, I supposedly used 85,100 gallons.
85,000.
85,100. So I guess my thing behind that is if there was a leak in my home of an additional 81,000 gallons, we would see that. Like, I mean, there's no way to hide 81,000 gallons of water. It's not feasible. My yard would be saturated and my kids are constantly in my yard. I'm in my yard. My husband mows the yard. My dogs are in the yard. Like, it would be known that there's 81,000 additional gallons of water sitting in my yard.
Have you talked to Danielle prior to?
Yes, I have. Yep, and I was told that I needed to come to you guys for that. I was supposed to come to one board meeting. I ended up in a conference in Cleveland and it just slipped my mind. My daughter's games also ended up on Mondays, which this obviously is a little bit more important than that, but not at the same time because it's my daughter's games. So I'm here now. But where did my train of thought go? Sorry, I'm just trying to.
Sorry, did you look at the billing? Because we bill by the thousand, right? So is that what maybe
That's why
was
it's-
construing the zeros?
Okay.
So yes, you're always gonna have the zeros because your meter doesn't read per the gallon, so it's not turning over
Okay.
until you hit the 1,000 gallons.
Okay.
So that just.
Yeah, okay, so that helps with like, because in my brain, I'm just like a numbers person.
Right, so if it were
Nothing
reading like
down.
every gallon that
Yep.
went through, then you would see that change in the ending numbers, but that's why
So
those are
then-
staying the same.
Why, so does my.
So you're
in-
77,000 gallons over from
Yeah.
what was normally read.
Correct.
No, 80.
No, it would still be 81,000 if it goes by thousands.
Because her typical is about, and I got her.
45.
I have 4,500.
Yeah, so like
So-
last month it was 5,400, before that it was 41, 39, 45, so right in that.
Well, and then another thing too that I would like to address is, so then I started, I'm not gonna lie, I have 4 kids, I'm very busy, like, I just pay the bill. I'm not always on time with that because won't do the automatic payment. This right here, like, more justifies why I would not do automatic payment, because if you would have just hit me, say I paid my mortgage that day, and then I had $1,300 get withdrawn from my account, I mean, that's a big deal. And for a lot of people, that would be detrimental. You know, I mean, I'm in a place where I was able to pay this bill, but the point is behind it is that that's not a typical situation. And regardless if it is or isn't, it's just not right, period, because I need a why. Like, I need a why and a justification of, well, where is it then? You know, and then on top of that, if it goes by thousands, when they read does the interior meter not go by that? Because they have ending numbers when they read the inside, because he showed me it on a sticky note.
So it does, your meter and dial should match up. Yours did not. Your meter had actually processed more water than your dial.
Mhm.
And that's where I told you we adjusted so that they match now. And they moved it to the outside of your fence so that
Mhm.
all of them can read it. We did have a couple DPW guys that would not, so they would send to the other guys that were fine with the dogs over there to read it. But those should always match up, but they did check your meter and it was reading accurately. So, and I did talk to Caroline before coming tonight, and I fully understand her wanting to know the why. I don't know, the meter is reading accurately. Which leads us to believe, and again, completely understand where she's coming from, that the water went through the meter. There's no other way for that. Without the water going through, the meter does not turn over in numbers.
But so then where's the water? I mean, that's my whole thing, and then on top of it,
This wasn't your first bill, correct? I mean, you've
No.
lived there for how long? And you've
oh,
always
we've lived there
received
since January 19th,
and you
and then
received a normal bill
Yeah.
until what month?
I received this in my email on September 1st. And then another
So
thing,
Your August bill was the only one that was
yes,
out of the ordinary and it went right back. after.
agreed, yes. And then I also, though, too, while I was digging through my bills, I noticed that my bill that's for March 15th to April 15th says I use 700 gallons of water. I mean, I have 6 people in my house, like I didn't use 700 gallons, so it's like, what's going on? Like, it doesn't make sense, and honestly, I feel like I feel like I'm being like robbed of something, like it's just wrong. If you can't tell me where it's at, and I have no proof of where it's at, how is that justified for me to pay it? It just doesn't make sense. And then on top of that, I made a payment on September 30th, I think is when it was. But it was not for this full amount because they were allowing me to, I was supposed to come to 2 different board meetings that I did not come to, totally my bad, 100%. But I had made a payment for what I actually owed, not this overage amount, on the 30th. And then my water had gotten shut off, I think on the 26th. So I think I must have missed somewhere that something additional was needing. Long story short, I had to make a payment of $1,390 something dollars and also a $90 charge to get my water turned back on. When I don't know, it's just my whole thing is that if the water was used, where did it go? And why did my sewer go up? Like, the water would then have to have been going through none of it makes sense. And I just need it to make sense. If I truly did this, then what did I do to make that happen? So that's where I guess I'm coming to you guys, A, to address the issue. B, I would appreciate to, even if we took 3 months of bills, divided that, got what my average was, and that's what I was charged for that month. To me, that's what makes sense, because where did the water go? I mean, I didn't fill up a pond, so where is it? And that's where I'm having a hard time.
Did we confirm that they were read?
Yes.
By one of the DPW workers from
yes.
August to September, that it was read.
Yes, I talked to DPW and they were reading it. Again, there were certain people, I think typically take the same books. So the person that normally does that book was
Because they know
not,
where the meters are on the side of the house, actually.
yeah, but DPW did say they read it. And I don't know where that water went. I have no idea.
And she doesn't have to back up some where it.
No, I only
water-
have the one sum.
That, you're right. So DPW did look at that
Yep.
because that was one of their first thoughts. They thought that maybe the sump had turned on and that's what
That's the
ran all of, right?
And yet you had a month, you're saying that there was 700 gallons.
Yep, somehow, and we had been living here, we moved in January 19th. The bill for 700 gallons is from March 15th to April 15th. We only use 700 gallons.
So the discrepancies are just,
But how?
Yeah.
I mean,
but how could it have been that small?
exactly, I mean,
Well, I've experienced that in other municipalities where they don't read it every month.
yeah,
So they average it out, and then at some point they have to reconcile to the meter.
yeah,
So it's either larger or smaller. If it's
Mhm.
smaller, it's a win. If it's larger, it's a loss. And that's
yeah,
how the residents take it. I think that's a separate issue from the August bill.
yes. No, I was
Yeah,
just trying to
right.
show that there
So
was
this-
also this discrepancy of 700 gallons.
We've
versus the
had,
45.
So that bill
We've
was
had
from
disappearing
July
water
15th to August 16th. And that it is, I mean, 85,100 gallons. I mean, it is a lot, like, I mean, we're not
I've
saying
looked up how
like,
much it would have to
a couple
like
thousand.
fill. I mean, it's an astronomical amount if you Google what the cubic feet of 81,000 gallons of water is. I mean, like my entire home would be underwater, like it would be noticeable, like I would have damage inside. My yard would be an absolute mud pit, like it would be known if this water was used.
What are the options, Danielle, that we have?
It's up to you guys. I
I mean,
mean,
I think
I
I
believe,
know.
I think she's requesting, I mean, unfortunately, the meter is reading accurate. It's this last month back to normal. Again, no indication that that meter's wrong. If she wants it replaced, we can replace the meter. But I think she's asking you guys for help on the bill, and again, that's up to council.
We had a similar situation with disappearing water on Pearl Street a couple years, a year and a half ago. And I, for the life of me, can't recall how we handled that.
You did give them a waiver.
Going back to precedents.
Seems like it makes sense to put a new meter in.
That's a fairly new house though, and you're saying the outside meter, the one that they read, and the inside meter, actual meter itself, on the pipe coming in, they read the same.
Yeah, so the meter was reading higher. We adjusted them to read the same, and the meter was reading accurate. We did not charge her for that higher amount.
What meter was it?
And so there's the meter and the dial.
Okay.
The dial is what we read because the meter is in the house. So the dial was actually reading a little bit lower than her meter. We realigned those when the meter tested properly so that they matched up, but we did not adjust her bill based on that because it would have been an increase. And so we just said, we'll adjust them. It's reading accurately moving forward. But again, I mean, we can put a new meter in there. But as far as the bill, that's up to you guys.
Well, it's essentially asking, if I'm understanding correctly, $1,000, because the typical monthly bill is between the 160 and the 180.
Yep.
So we've got the 1183.13.
Yes.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you
Or I'm
correctly.
sorry, 1,118 and 13 cents.
And the shut off fee, which never should have happened.
Yeah, plus she has $111.81 penalty because of that bill too, because she paid it half late, which, right, so really, that was her initial bill is the 1118. Her bill after the interest and penalties on that was $1,399.26. And I think that more accurately is the number that you should talk about discussing.
Can you, what was that one more time? I'm sorry. I know I have it in my checkbook, but I just saw that.
$1,399.26.
And what does that account for then,
So-
Danielle?
So that is, oh, and the $90 is not, I'm sorry, plus $90 on top of that. So that accounts for her bill for $1,118.13. Then she had penalty charges of $111. She did make the payment on the 30th, as she stated. Had her new meter bill come in at the 138, had some additional penalties, and that's what brought that up. So I guess there is an actual, let me do this on the calculator, because that's gonna be,
So $1399.26.
because actually we need to take out 138.68. But then we need to add $90, so 130.58.
130, say it again, Danielle.
I'm sorry, 1350.58 cents.
13.50.
And that's charging her the average or whatever for that.
That's not, I've not taken any average out or anything. That's the total, like, large bill and penalties, interest, or non-pay she paid.
And is there a month of water in that?
Her month of water is included in that.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Yes.
So we wouldn't have to deduct that amount.
If that's what, yeah, I wasn't sure what you guys wanted to do, so I'm giving you the total amount.
Well,
Are you willing to let us change out both the meter and the dial again?
I mean, yeah, I don't see why that would harm me by that getting done. I mean, I was told though that they read higher, so then it's like,
Right, exactly, so
but-
we can't prove which is inaccurate, so let's rechange that.
no, I meant, I was told that if I get my meter switched, that the new meters read higher than the older ones. Like almost like I felt that it was like, like I shouldn't get a change, is what
Who
I
wants to have it higher?
the DPW people who came out.
Well,
We got it. We have an answer.
So I think what they're saying is that when a meter gets older, that you're more likely to have a variance, and that when you get a new updated meter, it's going to be more accurate. So I don't think they're saying the meter is going to read higher. I think they're saying it in a weird, interesting way. I'm not sure how they worded it, but they're just trying to say that if you get a brand new meter that's not used, it's going to be very accurate.
Well, I'm sure like there's no corrosion, there's no this, like the
Right.
water
Correct.
just going through it.
That's what
But
I
like,
think they
that's
were trying to say.
definitely not how I was given it. I was given it as in, I wouldn't change out my meter. It will go, your bill will go higher.
And I
So-
apologize that that's how it
Yeah.
was presented. I will talk to them about being more clear in that.
Okay, because I mean, at that point, then that made me feel like it wasn't worth their time to address what issues I was having.
So
That's what it made me feel like
meters are like really similar to like your cell phone technology. They're constantly updating them to make them like better. I mean, they have meters now that you can hit a button on the computer and turn your water off. So
Oh, that's- yeah.
and again, that's what I think they're trying to say, it's going to be more accurate. Like if you have a meter that is working on a 10-year-old system compared to a meter today,
Yeah,
it's just going to be more accurate. It's
Yeah.
not going to read your water at a higher
mm-hmm,
rate or higher flow.
okay,
And I think that just probably wasn't very clearly explained, and I do apologize for that.
yeah.
Did we
And-
verify that this is just not a bad read or not a bad input into the billing?
Yes, we
Okay,
did
so
all of,
that's
we did all of that, because I mean, honestly, like, I feel bad for her. I was hoping if there was something like, we would correct it and we would fix that. Because if it's an error on our end, I'm not gonna send them to you guys. We're gonna correct it and let them know and communicate that. But the reason that I had told Caroline to come to you guys is because I have no idea. I mean, it's reading accurately, so I don't know.
So we started that.
So,
I know Caroline and her husband Josh. I coach with Josh. And all summer he was nice and dry. So is the house. So I have a really.
Where does that come
I-
in?
well, I'm saying-
How's the flooding?
I live on South Street, so yeah, let's give it to you.
Well, no, they hosted a party at that time of year. And there was just no water.
The street wasn't underwater.
No, so something went haywire. I would be willing to offer a refund if there was a meter change.
Oh, and I'm totally okay with the
That would be
meter
the
getting
concession.
changed,
That would be
yeah,
the concession.
because I definitely never ever want to find myself in this situation
But
again,
do
so.
we need to make a motion?
Yes, we'll get you the number.
Yes, you would need a
Okay,
motion.
so I'm gonna make a motion.
Get your number.
can I ask a
Hold on
quick
for a
question?
Go ahead.
Can we make a motion under public comment, or does it have to be an agenda item?
I don't know.
We've always, historically in the past, made motions at any time during the meeting.
Yeah, I think because you don't have a statutorily like public notice requirement for this, that you're good. Like if it were something like zoning or budget, then you have to notify the public of that.
I just want to make sure, so we're all even keeled here and know what we're.
It's,
Okay, well, for the sake of ease and accounting, I've landed on a $1,200 number. Which would be $1,350.58 less $150.58 as a rough month of water there. So audit purposes, this will stick out, you'll see it. Nice round double zeros at Caroline.
Hey, when you get something like this, you're looking for everything. So when they're saying that my meter is being read and it's all ending in zeros, it's like, yeah, no, there's no way that that's happening, so.
Josh better look out. Nothing's fine.
do you want the motion to be, fees 1,200 with the condition of meter and dial being changed out, or are you nixing that?
No, I think that's a concession she's willing to make, so I think that's a motion.
I want to make sure I have the motion correct.
Yeah, a second,
So,
okay.
Is that? Sorry, what, do I just continue to stand here? I don't- I didn't know, I'm sorry, I didn't know what I was supposed to do.
We're gonna call the roll.
You're not any longer than sitting up here like that, so yeah, go ahead and sit back down.
But does that come as like a credit to my village bill, or does a check happen? How does that happen? What do you?
First, it has to pass the motion.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
just stand right there.
Oh, okay.
All right,
I'll
stand right there for a minute.
I'm sorry.
You're fine, just stand right there.
All right, call the roll.
Barb,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Bob.
Yes, that motion carried.
Okay. And so then how does that handle from there?
We would credit into your account.
Okay.
I don't know, I mean, we've never really had, if you are wanting, yeah, if you wanna keep a credit balance on your account and
Oh,
get a
I'm fine with
partial
that.
refund or whatever, we'll work with you. You let us know.
It can just be kept as, it can just be kept as a credit. I mean, that's like a Christmas present right there. So that's fine.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, seriously. So I'm fine with that. If that's an easier way to handle it, to just like put it on there. And
Yeah,
then
that works
it
for
just
us if
eats
you're good with
from
that.
that. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your explanation, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Name and address?
Caleb Lamley, address 337 Cherry Street. The DDA events this weekend were excellent, good times for all. I do have one concern, I was hoping Chief Greenleaf would be here. That when I went into an establishment on Sunday, I found out that the police had to be called due to unruly people situation Saturday night. And it's kind of odd because I don't know if some of the council members, I think we even talked about this Saturday earlier in the evening, how the police really, they weren't to be seen. We saw the one bigger stocky officer Friday afternoon just make like a quick walk around all Friday night in town, didn't see him, could have been on duty, don't know, but they weren't seen. All day Saturday, nobody saw an officer. We've got now 2 alcohol establishments in town. They're having the, I don't know the official name, but the cider tasting going on downtown. And with things mixed together, it's clearly too much for some people. But the town has a very small history with events, whether the festival, different things, where alcohol is involved, or sometimes things get out of hand. And looking at the minutes, I see, that Chief Greenleaf had, put the motion because he had an issue staffing, but it seems like it was something with public safety, the history. I mean, we've had some serious incidences where people almost died. There were the murders not resolved in downtown, but the police presence needed to be there quickly. We used to have police officers in this town all the time. And if Blissfield PD couldn't handle it, why wasn't the sheriff's contractor or whatever for, like the prime time at night, like a 4-hour block, 5-hour block, something like that. I mean, it's something for the future that needs to be addressed a little more. Because I mean, when people are afraid, business owners are afraid, they're scared, things could have gotten, out of hand drastically.
Was someone on duty?
Yes, the police department did have staff, and in fact, I was at Yuletide, I'm gonna say pretty much from the start to end every day, and I did see them numerous times. We had Chief Greenleaf and Tom on Friday. Tom was here late. Chris came in Friday night. Tom was here Saturday, walked to downtown several times. I know I've seen them. Jacob was here Saturday morning until I believe 7 p.m. I know Tom was on yesterday, and we did have coverage all
So
weekend.
Saturday night, nobody was on duty
Tom was,
Yeah.
after 7 o'clock.
Tom was on.
Tom was on.
So why,
Jacob was on until 7, Tom was
why
on
was the
throughout
sheriff
night.
dispatched? and
The
not-
sheriff was not dispatched, Tom was. I made the call personally. So I called, we did have an incident, minor, but it was still an incident. I called Tom directly, who was there within 2 minutes of the issue, of me calling him. I made the call at the tent. I walked into the village office, set some stuff down, walked back to the tent, and Tom was right behind me.
Why were they not downtown though?
They were. Tom did have an incident that he had to respond with or deal with, and it like a call for service. In addition to Yuletide that did pull him out of the downtown, but Jacob walked around several times that day, the day he was here. Tom went out on several different times. I mean, I'm gonna say minimum, I've seen one of the officers go downtown at least 5 times. I mean, they were out very, and I don't know, maybe because I was in and out of the office that I see
Yeah,
them
that
more
might be why,
frequently,
because
but
I
they
know,
were
I personally was
definitely out there.
downtown all of Friday night, Saturday, almost all Saturday night. And then Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock-ish till almost 4. And I saw the same officer Friday that I saw briefly Sunday. And I did not see a single officer all day Saturday.
Yeah, and we had, because we had Jacob
And that's the other
and Tom
And
overlap.
obviously you can miss people, but other people, is the comment that a lot of people like, where are the police? Because normally in the past, we've had a lot of officers. We'd have 2 or 3 officers, sheriffs would be.
And we are
involved.
short-staffed, I'm not
And
gonna tell you.
it just
we're
seems
not,
like
but-
with those events, at least at night, they would have made sure that there's more of a police presence downtown.
Tom poked his head into the cheer tent
Yeah,
at one point, and you were sitting at the table right across, so.
I didn't see.
Yeah, he stopped and talked to Lisa and I for probably 5 minutes,
Yeah.
just to see what was going on. He did not come in the tent, but.
I think it's an unfortunate event.
Yeah.
I don't think that individual consumed enough alcohol at the event to behave like that. He definitely
Yeah.
showed up fully intoxicated. And unfortunately, one individual can ruin what otherwise would have been a really lovely event.
Yeah,
I also concur with Daniel. I did see a lot of police coverage, and I live down here. I saw you a bunch too over the weekend, but I guess I noticed them more because I see them here and interact with them.
yeah.
And Tom always makes a point of saying hi to me, so I guess my interaction with him was, I did have quite a bit more, but
Well, we would see, it seems like, there'd be more going in and out, out the back or out and around the corner.
I mean, they walked out
First,
right out the
yeah.
front door to walk downtown several times.
Yeah.
Well, I saw Jake Saturday afternoon, he called you, remember when I need more copies?
Yeah, that's true, he did tell me that.
That's just a concern that we had that, they're just, normally they're pretty much always in past events, been 1 or 2 officers posted up, sheriff's deputies, even if they're just kind of passing through. I don't think we really ever had.
Yeah, and our
state
police
come
department
through.
does do a really good job of working with the sheriff's department and communicating when we have events. And I mean, because really, unfortunately, police departments across the United States are shorthanded. And again, we are
Yeah, that's not to say
shorthanded.
that we are,
I'm
just
not
like we are.
saying we are not, because we are, but I do think that the police did a really good job this last weekend of being present. And I mean, I know there was not a single time if I needed something, they were right there. Chief was a huge help getting the roads blocked on Friday. I mean, and I would tell you, I'm not gonna lie to you, but they were out a lot. And
I'm gonna go back to Blissfield on tap for a quick sec. So that was a weekend where we didn't have a lot of officers. I think Chief was out of town. Jake was probably out of town. We actually hired Cambridge Township officers to come in and work that weekend, so we're not leaving the town uncovered.
Yeah, we just noticed in the past that, we've always had real good coverage. And just didn't know, because, it seems like lately,
maybe it's a sign that things went smoothly that you didn't see the
Yeah,
right.
officers.
it was.
You didn't need them.
It definitely went rather nice, so,
All right, thank you.
yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Good evening, my name is Louis Escobedo, I live at 460 North Lane, I've lived there probably about almost 40 years. And I'd like to go back a little ways, I'm pretty sure this is an issue that has been talked before, by other people before me, about our water bill. Typically, I leave to go south for the winter, and I remember to call Holly or Peggy to turn on my water when I'd be gone for 2 weeks. I would call her, hey, I'll be back in a couple of days and have a water turned on. Back then, there was no fee. And so, fast forward a little bit, when I left for 5 years to go take care of my mom in Texas, I found out that I had to pay, shortly after that, after I retired, I was working down there as well. I was going down there for the winter. I found out I had to pay $55 a month to pay for the chemicals and the water and the maintenance and so forth, so on. So I didn't want to pay, but I paid it. Well, I'm getting ready to go down there again. I found out that now the water bill is going to be $104 a month for everybody, whether you use water or don't use it. Well, I'm used to when I buy something, I leave with something. I don't mind paying for the water that I use, the chemicals that goes in to get treated or for maintenance while I'm using it. But if I'm not using a single drop, I don't see why I have to pay for anything. Typically, through DMP cable or any other service that I get, I can suspend my service and pay a minimum fee of $5. Why do I have to pay $104? Someone devised a plan to get money from the residents from this town, whether for the services they're not even getting. And I don't understand why. I hate to use the word, it's kind of small town extortion.
It's the same as that $55 you used to pay.
I understand.
It's
And
just
I
gone
paid
up
it then,
because costs have gone up.
I paid it then, but then in my mind, in the back of my mind, I'm saying, well, I don't mind paying it while I'm using it, but why should I have to pay when I'm not using it? It's not a kind of, we order a car with air conditioning as an option. Whether I use it or not, I'm still paying for that option. Well, water is not an option. We all need water.
It's the ready to serve fee is what you're discussing, and that's
And
paying for
believe
the
me,
maintenance,
and
the
I talked-
operation,
I talked to her and she says, well, we can have the water meter pulled. And well, you know what? No, don't do that because I don't want to make it water meter. But I don't want her water meter in my house. No. So just leave my water meter alone, and I'll be willing to pay a minimal fee. Just turn off the water in the street like they had before in the past, and I'm good. Just turn the water off the street, leave my water meter alone, and I'll be good.
What was the comment that we gave Mr. Diver, Danielle, when Mr. Diver talked about exits Blissfield
And
in
it's-
the winter?
And I'm believing, I'm not just speaking for myself, I'm speaking for other folks who live in this area who also go south for the winter. I'm pretty sure that they don't appreciate paying $104 fee for.
But you do have the option, there is an option, and that option is to pull the meter, and
I never had that be done before.
I
Never had that done before. 5 years ago, when I was down south, 1,500 miles away, they turned the water meter off the street. It's the shut off valve.
I understand.
They never put, well, if you understand that, if you understand that, then you realize we don't need a full meter.
Actually, that is the option, those are the options, it is either A or B. That is what I understand. I'm not saying it's all right. I understand what happened in the past. I understand what it is now. I don't like the water bill. Nobody in this village likes the water bill. We understand and we respect that. I'm just saying to you, there is an option. The option is to A, continue to pay it. I'm not saying that's what you want to do. And B, to pull it. And you don't want to do that, but those are the options. You're asking for an answer.
I like the option I had before, we just shut the water off the street.
There's no option C, I'm sorry.
You justify, you're making more work than what's needed.
I'm not making any more work.
There's no need to pull, there's no need to pull water meters, none whatsoever. Policies have changed since then. Policies can be amended. Thank you.
Sir, I just want to clarify. I'm not trying to be smart, but I'm going by our village administrator. And what our village administrator is sharing is exactly that. I'm not trying to be smart. These are our only two options. Am I accurate, Danielle? So I hear what you're saying. You're just asking, what can you do? And those are the options. That's all I'm saying to you. I'm not trying to be rude or inappropriate.
I know what the options are, but there wasn't no need for those options, when shutting off the street was worked for many, many years in the past.
Well, why did they change it? Do we know, Mike?
So to change, yeah, because we
Yes,
were
okay,
dealing with,
here's your answer. Let's
well,
find
we
out.
were dealing with, well, it's a lot of factors. Number one, the trailer park, the meters going in and out, so that was a factor of it. You talk about trying to be more
Generate
cognizant,
revenue.
more accurate in the billing and in our budgeting
I never
of
heard-
what it costs to send a DPW member out to technically shut your water off, whatnot. I mean, you want to realize what it costs to operate a DPW truck. So the village technically has to rent the truck out of the motor vehicle fund. You have to pay for the staff to actually drive it. I mean, it isn't cheap. Every time we sweep the street, I think Brett told me the other day it was $180 per hour just to sweep the street. So that, all that does, it boils down to maintenance of that machinery, maintenance of that equipment, paying the salary, paying the benefits, and I get it. Everybody here is frustrated with the water bills, but the water has to pay for itself. It costs us this much to produce and sell the water and operate the plants and whatnot. We have to make that money back in order for it to happen. Now, what it's doing, I get it, it's frustrating. Yes, it was the old days where you could go send a guy out, shut your meter off and go back, get back in the truck, but it was inaccurate. It was an inaccurate way to bill, to provide the system, because we weren't paying for that person. We weren't paying for that staff.
Well, if the water got shut off at the street, then how can I get an inaccurate bill for not using any water? So I shouldn't have a bill. That should
Not
make the job
inaccurate,
easier.
not inaccurate billing for us, but inaccurate budgetary wise of keeping track of how much does
Well,
it cost for labor, how much does it cost?
You have a
for
big
labor.
idea how many people from this area need to go down
A
south.
lot, and I get it, you're right,
Okay,
we're
so
not,
why don't you just pay a standard fee of maybe $30-40 or like I said earlier, I know you can't go that low. I pay a $5 suspension fee at DB Cable for my internet and cable.
and I agree with you.
So
That's a
I'm not sure you
frustration
got a
for us as
ballpark
well,
figure how many
because we're
people
not,
need the area.
we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. I mean, obviously, there's a million other towns that bill and have to provide infrastructure and have to replace their water plants. So these are things that we're trying to reinvent and we shouldn't be. And that's why we're.
That goes out of your
working with
taxes
issues
too,
on
doesn't it?
water. So I get your frustration. It's just a matter of how do we do it accurately? How do we do it responsibly? We have to make money. We have to not make money. We have to balance out the budget. We have to set aside funding for future infrastructure projects. We have to pay for the water treatment plant. We have to pay for the staff that goes out and shuts your water off.
Well, which takes longer? Shut off the water at the street with a key handle or pulling a valve? Which takes longer?
You're absolutely right. You're right.
Which takes longer? Tell
Pulling the
me.
valve. You're right.
Huh?
I agree.
Which
Pulling
one
the
takes
valve.
longer?
Yeah, or pulling here. Yeah,
So why are you creating more work?
I agree. But again, that's the policy that we set in order to satisfy.
Policies can be
another-
amended.
another
Policies can
resident.
be amended, right?
It can, yes, absolutely.
Okay,
That's what I agree. I'm
so let's
certainly not.
work on that.
Absolutely. Well, we're looking at all this stuff. We're looking at, how do we designate a unit? We've been fighting with Matt for 2 years on what constitutes a unit, whether we should even be involved past the meter, whether we shouldn't be. We've been trying to pay for this water treatment plant. We're trying to pay for future upgrades. We've got sewer, or we've got water, lead, and copper issues coming down the line. So none of this stuff's going away. It's how do we most responsibly settle it and fix it and get by and not make everybody want to move out because they can't afford water. I totally understand it.
Well,
It's something that's.
after
all of
hearing
our-
this poor girl story about her water meter, you pull my meter, I'm not gonna check in her meter.
I get the frustration,
You
absolutely.
can keep your same meter, Louis. You can have your meter pulled and just set in your house.
If you leave it alone, I can still have my same meter.
All right,
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
thank you. Take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Support. You call the roll, Lisa.
Mike,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Gwen. Yes. James,
Yes.
Ron.
Yes, meeting adjourned.